Yo, it's DaBLackKing, and welcome back. Welcome back to DaBLackKing Plays Final Fantasy VII. I kind of cut it up early because I had a bit of a stinger in the house. I didn't want to keep dealing with him. And I needed to go anyway, so... I could have kept it on pause, but here's another thing. It didn't used to do this, but now that whenever I have this on pause, this is what happens. When I say... Do you remember when I was talking about when it would mess up and everything? Well, every time I go on Facebook now, didn't used to do this, but anyway, whenever I try to use the mic, obviously, let me explain something here. I can't tell if anybody can hear me or not while I'm live, because, I go live on there. I'm really not trying to be live. I could just record, but, again, I don't think they've changed it where you can go not more than about, 9 minutes. See, whereas if I go to live, I can go for as long as I need to, like 20 minutes, 30. I try not to do any more than what I have to. And a lot of times it winds up being that I actually have a lot to say. So, I try not to make it any more than about 20 to 30 minutes if I have a lot to say. Sometimes I run overboard. But anyway, yeah, the mic it mutes it completely. And because I guess, for some reason or another, whatever, I'm using this recorder, it takes up the entire mic itself. I used to be able to share it, so I don't know. I can do this on computer, as long as I was using XSplit. Now, XSplit I kind of like, and I both don't like. Now, I like the fact that it's for free, and you don't actually have to pay for it. I think what's running off, they had this thing where you can actually take away the logo out of the video, and something about watermarks, which was never really a thing, so I don't know anything about no watermarks. Anyway, the logo would disappear sometimes when you bought their service, and sometimes it wouldn't. I don't know. It's very cheap enough to pay for it, but it's not really much difference. And what I don't like about them as well is that if you wanted to do more screens, you have to, pay a little bit more. Well, that's fine. And everything. But the thing of it is it depends on your budget. And it would be fine if I had it from my budget. But I don't want to sit there and have to do that and be like, oh, well, now I can't do that because now I got to put out some extra money. And I ain't got it. And that's what's the terrible part of it, is when I just don't have the money. It's fine. It's just a little extra money. It's not like they're charging me $1,000 for it. No. That would be absolutely insane. They're one of the best recording services I've ever had. And that was for computer. I tried to do it on mobile. They actually was doing good on the mobile. But, yeah. And I just got to go into Taco Bell. And, I spent some extra money for my family. So, yeah, you might say this is a bit of an updated video as well. On top of this, before we get started. I'm sorry if I have a lot to say before this goes on. So, if this makes this a long video, then I apologize. But anyway, they missed out on an item. They were talking about something that was missing, but they didn't say anything about me having to miss an item when I left. So what we thought was, me and my driver. Anyway, we thought that it was one of the ones we ordered, which was a beefy 5-layer burrito, which I've never had one of those. Apparently, that costs $1.89. You're not including tax, though. So they don't. What I like about it is they don't add up the tax until after you got everything on there, which is good, because it would be bad for business. You know what I'm saying? If you just added taxes per item, that's just stupid. Everybody would go out of business if they did that, because nobody could afford it unless they're some kind of rich floozy or whatever. Well, not necessarily a floozy, but, I'm just trying to do that as a point. Anyway, what it turns out is we're missing a 7-layer burrito. So, you know. But either way, you know, it's between me and my family, you know, what I got left in this world. So, I got some good salads. One of them I didn't like because it had a hard shell on it. I'm like, no, I don't want that. Yeah, what do they call it? Mexican pizza, quote unquote. You can't see that, but I'm putting some quotes in the air, my fingers. It's not exactly a pizza, but it's in the shape of a pizza. You know. Back when I used to get quesadillas, they never cut it up like that. They cut it up like, now they cut it up like pizzas that are actually that way. So, you know. Anyway. Bad thing is that they're talking about closing up all the shops out here. And, you know, all early on. Including Christmas. Well, to be fair, I don't ever go out on Christmas anyway. I don't know how many people that do. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing if people don't go. Or people don't go to work on that day. What I'm saying is that see, the thing is that how do I explain this? Anyway, let's get on with the game. See, with all this going on, you have the holidays, and you want to spend with your family. What if you want to go somewhere, and there's no restaurant available? It doesn't have to be like Taco Bell or anything. It could be something fancy, and it's not open. You want to take your family to a restaurant. Now, there might be something somewhere in the world, but a lot of places aren't open. That can be very hard to find. When it came to our family, we never did that. So, anyway. I'll meet you inside the cave. Now, this part right here, I don't think I've ever said this before, but this is the only time you'll ever get to see this scene. And it's very odd because you would think that it would affect the whole idea of you being able to exactly go out there and fight the snake. This snake, obviously I guess not this one here, has a clone, I guess, of some kind that you can fight, but the only reason to fight it again is to get the enemy skill. And speaking of enemy skills, obviously it says marshes, I don't know why. Because we're kind of like on the outside, on the outside with a cutscene. So let me think here, I don't think we got, I think there's an enemy skill we've already seen. I don't remember. Yeah, we don't have it yet, but we will. There's other enemies that will give it to you later too. It doesn't sound right, but in other words, yeah. You know. So there's also skills that Sephiroth has. That he can teach you. Wait a minute. He can teach you at the end of the game, but there's no point to it because you can't save it. I can understand that. That's how I feel. And pretty much, I didn't even know about that. And I've never even had him do some of those skills. Ever. Anyway. That's good for one reason only. Now, you might hear this music. It's sort of a staple music that's through most of the places, and it's about the same music. It's like, you think there would be a difference in the phrase or a different one for different ones, but no. Unfortunately not. Okay. Okay, so these are new enemies. Castanites. Mm-hmm. Still not hitting the right person. Yeah, we learned it. Alright. Okay, like I said before, it's very, very important that you use sense as early on as possible, though, which is as soon as you get the materia. Which means you should obviously have it equipped in order to use it. And at this point, there's something I forgot to do. Let's just take this off, and it will go up. But what we want to do right now, put this back on. And we're gonna hold off putting on any more material on until we get more slots, which is coming up. So, anyway. So yeah, this is a mithril mine, but you can't get any mithril out of it. Despite the name being mithril mine. Now you'd think so because it's a mine that has mithril in it. Alright, see you in a moment. Ah. So yeah, I ran for that battle. Seed ether. Receive tint. Now, speaking of material, which if you don't know this, steel is absolutely useless on enemies that have nothing to steal. But you want to also steal as much as you can from enemies. But you want to make sure that you know which ones are going to do it. So, the only thing I can tell you how to gain experience from that is that you get in one battle and find out if they got it. And now, bosses typically, there's some of them that will have something you can steal from them, but not all of them. So, what I suggest you do before you get into any boss fight, first of all, make sure you're healed up. Go to a save point, obviously. Use a tent. Make sure you got everything filled up. Because in this game, you don't get cabins. So, anyway. What you do is you save. Now, this is if you're doing this regular on a console. And then you find out. And then, if they don't have anything on there, I mean, this way if you want to find out for yourself. Because I can tell you pretty much offhand what hands, as I go on. I don't remember what all right now. I couldn't name you, like, okay, for example, some boss named PlayStation. I don't remember half the bosses in this game right away. Even though I've played this game before. But it's been that long since I've actually beaten it. I have never actually 100% in this game. Never in my life have I ever 100% of this game. Which I'm going to guarantee you right now as well is I'm probably not going to still be able to 100% it until I get better at chocobo racing. Yeah, that's one of the things I have a problem with. Always struggle with that. It's one of the things that it's going to be the bane of my existence for playing this game. It's chocobo racing. So, yeah. I might like put that as a bonus or something for me to do as I practice and each and every time. Because it's good to get prizes from that. But we can't do nothing with that till way later on. And anyway, so let's move on, shall we? So, anyway, you'll notice that most of the time you're going to wind up sacrificing materia. Doesn't matter when you do it, like with the Yuffie quest. It's completely optional. It means you don't have to do it at all. But it is part of the 100% of the game. That's if you care about 100% of the game. I personally don't. So, again, a lot of the things I'm doing are going to be off-screen. I'll be skipping a bunch of dialogue and this and that and all the other. Because we've seen it already through all this playthrough. And I'm sorry you happen to see me go through the beginning most of the time here, but that's because I'm having to start over. And I'm also trying to make it to where I'm making videos, but I'm skipping out a lot. However, when we get to the point that we need to be in the playthrough, there won't be any more skipping. This I promise. Because there'll be things that'll be showing off, and I don't know if I'll even have all 100... Or not 100. This isn't a code. I don't know if I'll have all 100. I keep trying to say that again. All enemy skills. I know the name of it. I just kept slipped my mind because I kept trying to think about the 100 songs by accident. I don't mean like images or whatever. There's the word. But yeah. So you're right now. We have one. I'll just count it by the stars. 1, 2, 3, 4 skills. And we're going to get more. So, yeah. And the reason you want to put Fury on as well is to get to the next level. Because it can be very, very hard. Because of how much later it is to get like characters like Nanaki. Which I always name him by his birth name. To me, it makes more sense. I mean, if his name was actually a Red 13... I would have named him Red 13. I don't even really care for that name. I mean, I don't even hate the name either. But we'll be right back after these messages. Anyway, I don't hate the name, but by default, it's what he should get with him. You can actually change his name to any name you want to, even a bad F word if you want to. If you know what I mean. Basically saying the actual F word. Most characters... Actually, there's a lot of characters in this game you can actually rename to anything you want to. I could have called Barrett something else, but... Like Mr. T. And I don't think so. He's not Mr. T. I tell you that, but... Let me tell you something about Mr. T. He looks nothing like Barrett T. Mr. T. First of all. Secondly, Mr. T would never even do... anything like this. He may be strong... or whatever... But that's one thing you won't catch Mr. T doing. Alright, I'll meet y'all momentarily. Alright, we have some new enemies here. So let me think here. It's important to not sense the same enemy. So, they're both the same, except the difference is one is A and one's B. So I don't remember if they have anything on them or not, so couldn't steal. That's not good. It's important to not give up. Just keep going until you can't. Well, if you have fast speed, it's good to do that too. Alright, I'll see you later. And if you don't, make sure you've saved at least somewhere. Like, okay, if you're going to do this normally because there's no save point in this building, obviously, you want to go outside, which is out here. You know. If you have to, don't worry about it, if you don't get them back right away. Just run. Just run like crazy. Come out here. Go do your save thing, which is circle. I don't know if it's actually circle on PlayStation, the actual console, or not. It's been too long since I actually played this out of a console. And normally, because if I were doing this normally, this is what I would do because this is here. But I don't have to worry about that. But anyway, what you would do is you go back in there and you keep going on, and you don't have to reset the PlayStation. But that way, you can take a chance on trying to get it each time until you find the enemy again. Until you find the enemy again like that one. Which, by the way, what we got from that fight was a grand glove. I couldn't remember the name of it, but it's basically a weapon for our boxing character, which is her. But see, I see no point in putting material on members that are not in our party. And here's another thing I don't see no point in doing. See where we have fairy in all three characters? I actually did do this for a little bit, but there's not much point. Now, speaking of, she'll be always a prominent character. As for her, I won't tell you what's going to happen to her because I don't want to spoil it for you. But it's a good idea to go ahead and unlock her enemy skills by taking her out as early as possible, every chance you get, and just basically get her to the highest you can go. If you want her back, you're going to have to cheat. There is no other way to get her. Sorry, but it's true. Which makes more sense for at least the end game. But unfortunately, you can only get her back starting with Disc 2. I'm not going to tell you what goes on there because I don't want to spoil it for you. But either way, I will see you momentarily. We received a mind source. These are items that are very rare. You can use them now or later. Mind source and guard source. Guard source raises vitality. I don't remember the descriptions, that's why I'm reading of what they do. Mind source raises spirit. Not all that useful when you can actually basically overpower your opponent, your characters anyway. And as far as getting the flamethrower, I think that's what it's called. Let me check that out. Let me just check that out real quick. You can set it however you want to. This is actually the first time I've actually set this up like this, by the way. Yeah, flamethrower. So anyway, or actually set up the character. It's one of the best combinations I've found that I've never actually used, which makes sense. To have the guy in the middle, because that way, if he decides to block it, and there will be more chances to get enemy skills, but there's not much point unless you want one that has the exact same skill that has only 1 point of healing your party and doing like what Red 13 as he's normally called, but which is not his real name, original birth name, and which is obviously Nanaki. I actually made sure to look that up a long time ago, make damn sure of it. And they even reveal it to you when you get up to Cosmo Canyon. Anyway, what are we talking about now? I don't remember. There's supposed to be something there. I don't remember how you're supposed to walk that way. Walk this. Now, see, the thing about this is, if you do it right, you could actually unlock Limit 2. Maybe even Limit 3. But the final one requires not a few things. First of all, you have to do... well, it's not for everybody, obviously. But a tournament of sorts. And I'll go more over that later. But anyway... And also, you have to be on a certain disc in order to even make it useful. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it doesn't always happen, but it automatically unlocks on its own. I've seen it happen, because I played this game before. Doesn't always happen. It's like a 1 to 10% chance that it actually happens. And believe it or not, it's like, okay, like, say if you didn't actually go through the tournament, blah, blah, blah. And then it automatically unlocks automatically anyway at the end of the game. So, yeah. So let's just say you didn't get level 2 or level 3, which, by the way, level 2 is still missing another piece before we go into level 3. I don't intend to go to level 3 until I'm ready for it. Nor 4. Which, basically, at certain points of the game, you're already pretty much ready to get a level 4 anyway. But let's not talk about that later. Now, here's a fight that I'm used to getting into. I have forgotten about. This is how I would normally see these enemies. So, let's see what... Alright, later. Alright, so what you missed so far was that my all leveled up, but that's nothing new. And while I got your attention here before we continue on, it's important to level up, but you don't have to do it right now, because we're going to get plenty of opportunities as we go along. Especially because we're going to need that HP to grow and rise up enough to go back and take on that snake, that golem, or Zolom, whatever they call it. Just so we can get this enemy skill. I've seen before, but I've never actually been able to get it, well, not on video. And, in all the years I actually played, I never got it till this recent playthrough I did of it. Where I still haven't completed the game, obviously. But in any case, I'm not sure how to work this whole thing with, having Ares on disc 2 and still get through it, because I've been having trouble with that. Anyway, I'll see you when I see you. And of course, another scene. This guy right here is always shy, but he's a little bit more talkative in the movie of Advent Children. Don't ask me what it's like in the remake of the game, because I don't even know what that's like. I've been debating on whether or not I'm going to get the remake anyway for on and off, and I don't know. About tempted to just to try it out and see if I like it or not. I don't know if I'll even do a let's play of it, but... Or, excuse me, a playthrough. Or, Anyway, later. I like how they have to come up to you and, explain things or whatever. And yet you'll find out clues anyway, which is actually more beneficial that way. Not that it really makes any difference as far as story-wise line goes, but about the Turks, It's like, okay, blah, 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 Turks this, Turks that, blah, 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 blah. And, and it's like, and it's hard to say who's the leader. between to sing and I always put a T in there because there's a T, but Sing or whatever his name is, and Reno. So and I would say Root is definitely in charge, but he's like second in command. Whereas Elaine is like more like a third in command type model for the Turks. And there's actually a lot more characters to the Turks that I never even knew, that we'll never see in this game, that we'll only know about like if you play like Crisis Core, and stuff like that. Because even though this game actually came out before Crisis Core came out, so anyway, later. Another thing you might notice is the music that you'll see here. You'll get that a lot when you get with the Turks. Alright, later. And you see what I mean by how shy he is? Like, he gets, like, very quiet and all of a sudden he has nothing to say. And that woman, what you wouldn't think is a woman on that cliff up there, because you can't hardly tell, but that's definitely a woman. I know because I played before and I know exactly whether or not that's a woman or not. But, actually when you look at it from this angle, that model up there, you can tell at that cliff if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, later. And of course, she says, "Sir!" What gets me about when you're doing roles, gender roles, people tend to call women sir. I'm like, that's a madam. And last time I checked, until a woman becomes a male, there's no reason to call him sir. No more than, I can understand captain because that's a role for anybody, obviously. Just like admiral and whatever else. But like, okay, king is not a woman. It is a man. Always has been, always will be. Just like queens are always women. Always has been, always will be. As it should be. What's the point of having a queen, if there ain't no women out there by the name of queen? Not queen name. If they're not royalty like that. Because, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Obviously never on YouTube, but okay. Kings and queens do not outroll each other. People seem to get that misconception because also the way they kind of ruled way back when. But it was more proven at a later point of how they ruled that a queen has just as much say. And a queen does not have more power than a king, nor that a king has that. They both have equal power. The only way to do that is if you get greedy. And it still does not mean you're entitled. That just means you're just getting greedy. Period. Alright. Anyway, later. Alright, I suppose if you look at it at this angle now, that you can tell if you're able to zoom in. I'm not really able to zoom in. That, yeah, that's definitely a female. Still kind of hard to say the way they got that. But they do a better job in the smoother versions like the HD and the remake, all kinds of things. I don't know if Alina's actually in the thing, but because I did take out the weapons in that game, which I thought sucked. They did that anyway. Later. I like how she contradicts herself in this a statement like, that our job is to stop you and whatever, and she says that, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, it's the other way around. You are the ones that are getting in our way. Anyway. And here comes the guy I was talking about, Sing, or like I call him T-Sing, because he's got a T in there. Anyway, Sing. Lena, you talk too much. And then he'll go on, he'll say, after she says, Mr. Sing, no need to tell them about our orders. I'm not sure what voice to give him, because this is way back before they actually had voices. And perfect roles that they had, like especially with Cloud and Barrett, any of them, I got some good fitting ones for, Nanaki and Barrett. Anyway, later. And see, the thing about Singh as well is that he's not really, that I've never noticed in the movie of Advent Children. It's hard to say what happens to him. So, and the thing about Advent Children is it takes place like after the events, but the problem with that whole thing is a lot of it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, later. Yeah, I was right. His name is Reno. Yeah, we had a little bit there for a while. If you couldn't tell that or not a while, for a few minutes there, I couldn't remember his name. But yeah, he's sort of the head leader of it. I couldn't tell you who actually leads the Turks as far as the Turks goes themselves. You know, but that's what I mean by who's in charge. Anyway, later. So that's one thing I forgot to tell you about as well. Save your game. Even though that you may not be fighting anything important here other than enemies that will give you stuff that you can steal from, and you can sense them if they're new, and there's no point in constantly sensing them unless you have to know what HP because you forget. But anyway, also that's another reason in case you want to find out, because there's always extra dialogue or something with different characters that you have in your party. So I would definitely recommend saving as well for that. Like I said before, go outside and save before you come in here, because once you get out of here, there is no more going back to that unless you go all the way from the beginning and all that mumbo jumbo. Crazy to get all the way up here again. Alright, later. I like it when, I mean, not really like. It's kind of funny when Cloud says, she's not with us. Well, actually, that's not the funny part. I'll go get that in a second. She's with the others. And, I like how it's like implying that there is actually more than one person that she's with. Right now, at this timeline, you have no other person but who was ever with her, whether it's Barrett, Anaki, or Tifa, as they call her. Anyway, so because you can only have one party with her. Remember, with her because you had to have at least a select of 3, unlike at the one point in the game. Anyway, see you in a moment. Received an little elixir. Elixirs are good for about one thing only. Which, in other words, you should be saving those up. If you have to, use them, but use them sparingly because they are very rare. And even to buy them is way too far in the game. They're high potion. If you get those are very rare to find on the ground. But it's also a good idea to steal and get those because they come in handy a lot more than regular potions do. Not to say that they don't come in handy at all, but, you know. Anyway, there's nothing else in here. Alright. Now, this might look familiar. In a way, you might think it's a clue, and it kind of is, to something else that's coming up wee bit in the game. But we'll go more over that later. Actually, I really noticed it. I never actually noticed that till now. So, to be fair, honestly. Alright, so basically, at this point, we don't have to worry about anything. We don't have to worry about anything else. But getting out of here. Okay. And speaking of Chocobo, there's one more enemy I don't think we've ever encountered, and if we have, I don't remember it ever being on camera, so... But it actually has an enemy skill that you can actually learn, and I could have sworn there was some other enemy that I learned it from, but apparently there's only 2 enemies. Or 2 or 3 of them, and it's one that you can actually miss. It's an enemy skill. I'll go over that later when I get there. And this thing is a rare chance encounter, but even if it is rare, it's very strong. It doesn't run or anything like that. Alright, later. Oh yeah, by the way, at this point, we can either go over here or over here. It doesn't really matter, but I suggest that you get it over with either way if you want to, optionally. before we continue on the main storyline, which in the next episode I will continue on later.